Hello, friends and fellow travelers and eavesdropping robots. Today, let's talk about thriving and are you allowed to thrive? And what if thriving is actually a radical, defiant act of liberation? So, I'm coming to you from outside my favorite tree. We are nearing the end of summer and all the blooms are gone mostly. I think we might get another round, it looks like right here. And the tree is going to seed, which is what these are, these long seed pods. And it's hot and the ants are out. But yesterday we had a very sweet little gathering. Thank you to everyone who came for that. And we really spent some time in conversation and listening around what it means to thrive, and especially what it means to thrive right now. So one of the questions that I asked was, are you allowed to thrive? And I really invite everyone who's listening to be with that question. Like, are you actually allowed to thrive? And are there parts of your life in where you are allowed to thrive potentially, and parts of your life where you're not allowed to thrive? And one of the participants asked a really good question, which was, what does it mean to thrive right now? What does it look like to thrive in this social climate, political climate, environmental climate, internal climate? For each one of us, we each have our own internal climate happening. And what does it look like to thrive? You know, for example, if we use the wheel of the seasons as a way to think about thriving, we have winter, which is a dormant period. You wouldn't say that anything is truly thriving in winter in terms of looking at your plants in the garden, for instance. And then in spring is you're planting seeds and you're starting new things potentially. And then summer can be a lot of hard work as you're working towards your goals. And then autumn is about harvest and about reaping what you've sown. And hopefully what you've sown is love and care and compassion and goodwill and peace on this planet, as opposed to sowing division and separation and sowing evil will. What's the opposite of goodwill? Wishing ill on others, let's say. And so harvest is really this time of thriving. Imagine, just pulling that ripe fruit off of that tree and having the juice of that peach kind of, running down your chin, that kind of a thing. Or, you could do that, think about that with watermelons, for instance. And we have all of this wonderful abundance towards the end of summer and into fall. And then we go into winter. And so in parts of our lives, we might be in a thriving harvest kind of state. You might be really excelling in your work right now, or doing work that lights you up or makes a difference, or really learning and growing and expanding in your work. And potentially in your relationships, they might, or some relationships, of course, not all of them, that would be interesting. You might find yourself in more of a winter or more of a spring. Right? Starting over. That's a springtime. But this question, what does thriving look like? I'll tell you, just, to give you an example, like I have some physical health challenges going on right now, and I would not say that I'm thriving physically. It's a really, it's requiring a lot of me right now to navigate these, and I'm doing it, and maybe not with as much grace as I might like, but whatever. I'm here. I'm showing up for it, and I'm navigating it to the best of my ability. In other parts of my life, like my spiritual life, is absolutely thriving. Right? My relationship with the divine is absolutely thriving. Oh, and then look who's here. Look who's here. Oh my goodness, this little beast. I don't know if you can see her. Our relationship is in a beautiful, thriving place. Yeah, she's my little munchkin. And so, and in my work, I'm in a springtime. I'm planting seeds in my soul work specifically. I'm planting seeds. So I'm in all of these different phases. Not all of it is thriving. But today, as I was considering, what to bring into our conversation, and thank you so much for being here. And if you like this and it would help you, send it to someone else if you think it would be supportive for them to hear these words about thriving. But, we live in a time when it's really easy to get bogged down by the bullshit in the political sphere, the propaganda that comes from mainstream media, the just outright division and separation that we're just swimming in. It's all around us, and it's so, to me, very demoralizing and destructive. But if I get sucked into that, then there's no way that I can thrive. And in fact, I believe that there's been this systematic churning and this systematic plan to create this division and separation among all of us so that we can't thrive, so that we get so spun out into outrage or into hopelessness and despair that we are more manipulated, or more easily manipulated, more easily controlled, and more easily removed from the remembrance of ourselves as divine and the remembrance of ourselves as love. And I do believe that this is all by design, because if all of us, or a vast majority of us, remembered ourselves as love and as the divine embodied, we would not be living in the world that we're living in right now. We would not be having people treating other people in this dehumanizing kind of way. So I believe it's all by design. But back to the original thing. So if that's all true, if I'm right, and I could be wrong, and I'm wrong all the time, like I'm just human trying to figure it out like everybody else. But if I'm right, then our thriving is a defiant act of liberation. When you say, I'm willing to feel fully alive and fully in love with my life and with the world and with humans and with dogs and plants and creatures and with the earth, and I'm willing to be in sacred relationship with others, that is complete defiance and it's just completely against what the mainstream messaging would have any of us believe or enact or embody. And so this is where I'm at today. I am someone who has danced with chronic illness for a very long time, most of it undiagnosed, and so therefore it just seemed like a mystery, big mystery. And now, we're chipping away at things, and it's becoming more clear what some of these things are, and there's good reason for some of the stuff I'm experiencing right now in terms of where some of this is coming from. But my question to myself is, am I going to allow myself to do the work, the inner work and the energy work, to remember and potentially reprogram these limiting beliefs that I have incorporated around my capacity to thrive physically? They're there, trust me. They're like plain as day right now. But we all have these in different areas. So are you allowed to financially thrive, for instance? Are you allowed to thrive in your relationships? Are you allowed to thrive in your body? Are you allowed to thrive in intimacy and sexuality? Are you allowed to thrive creatively? We all have areas that are potentially blocked. And this is it's just how it is. And it has to do with what we came here to explore and learn and uncover, and how we came here to expand. And so, my takeaway from my time yesterday in our listening circle is that I can go back to my practices and I can go back to my energetic tools and kind of double down or revisit. There's no there in our healing journeys, unfortunately. Like, I really wish that there was a beginning and a middle and an end, and that once we got to that end point, we would just be good to go. Smooth sailing. And while we do have periods of smooth sailing, and yes, it does happen, the reality is that we are very complex in the ways our psyches are. We're complex in ways we can't even yet understand, that modern psychology doesn't even begin to get there. But you've heard the analogy probably a million times that we are like onions, and we're constantly getting down to deeper and deeper layers of material that we have to work with and integrate, right? Healing is nothing more than actually integrating the parts of ourselves that have been disowned or disavowed or disinherited, or whatever words you want to use. And so my work is going to be to go and excavate another deeper layer. And this is the kind of work that I do with my clients as well. And so if this is something that you feel you're on a journey of and want to go into deeper layers of yourself so that you can have deeper integrations and achieve new levels of experiencing that sense of wholeness, then, I want you to know that there are many ways to get there. And energy healing is one of the most powerful ways that I know of. And also what I love about, energy healing versus therapy, and therapy is necessary for sure, in certain circumstances, but there are a lot of things that therapy cannot touch and cannot really make significant change on in ways that energy healing can. So anyway, that's just me and my update and these musings on thriving, and how if we allow ourselves to thrive, if we are able to co-create the conditions, and I mean that at a social level, I mean that at small community level, and I mean that at an individual level, like we're co-creating with each other here, and we're also co-creating with spirit, and we're co-creating with our bodies, right? Our minds and our bodies have been at war with each other for a long time, and that is also, part of what's embedded in our culture. And so this true awakening that's happening on the planet is really about awakening to our sense of wholeness as divine creatures having an embodied experience. And we cannot continue to deny the body. We also cannot continue to make primary the material aspects of our experience. And that's what's happening right now. And thankfully, and it's rich territory for inner work, inner exploration, and inner growth. But it's also work. It's a daily practice to be in your body when your body is in pain. It is a daily practice to be in your body when the world wants to keep you in your head, and we're so distracted and we're so addicted to our screens and to drama and trauma and all of that. So it's really a day-by-day, moment-by-moment practice. And it is enhanced and made easier by spiritual practice and by remembering our divinity, but not at the sake of ignoring our physical experience, right? We're not here to transcend the body. We are here to fully inhabit the body as divine beings. So anyway, that's me on my soapbox. Thanks for joining me in my garden. We'll see how everything continues to change and shift with my beautiful tree. And I'm just wishing you all a beautiful day, week, and I hope that these words inspire some deep reflection on your part about whether or not you're allowed to thrive, and what would a defiant act of liberation in terms of thriving, what would that look like for you? Would you be wildly creative? Would you be wildly in love? Would you be wildly well-fed? I don't know. What would it look like? I'd love to hear about it. So here is to your deep and radical thriving in these times of confusion and division and separation.